This is one of over 500 assisted PNF stretching demonstrations that can be found as part of my 80 Days to Your Dream Body course, which is available to my channel members. If you'd like to see all of them, then consider becoming a member. But for right now, let's get our stretch on. And while we're resting, let's continue with our assisted PNF stretching demonstration. And now we're going to get a little bit more superficial and we're going to work on multi-joints. So we're going to be working on the long head of the biceps brachii. The long head of the biceps brachii crosses the shoulder anteriorly and elbow. It's responsible for shoulder flexion, elbow flexion, and supination of the forearm. So we want to reverse all of those by going into shoulder extension, elbow extension, and forearm pronation. And to do that, we have a couple of different hand options available. The first one is we could just take our standard positioning. So we could have one hand at the acromion to stabilize. And then with the other hand, what we could do is we could have it at the distal humerus. And then we could go into shoulder extension, elbow extension, forearm pronation by turning the arm in. This way over here, some people, depending on the position, depending on the person, this may be a little bit uncomfortable on the elbow joint. And for some people, it may be a little bit more beneficial if you were to stabilize with your pelvis and then grab a hold of the distal humerus and ulna. That way, you could get a little bit less torque at the elbow. It's going to depend on patient to patient. And also, there's another option available to you if you have somebody who's rather large and strong. For myself, whenever I'm performing the stretch for the long head of the biceps brachii on a large, strong athlete, what I like to do is place my back up against the patient's back. So I will get their arm into a position of extension. And then from here, I will place my back against their back. I will round the arm over top. And then this way, I'll have them hug against my torso. I could take them into shoulder extension, elbow extension, and then I could take them into forearm pronation by rotating. And it's going to be a lot more comfortable for the patient. They're going to be a lot more stable. And as the therapist, it's going to be a lot more comfortable for me. And I'm not going to have to use any muscle whatsoever. I could just use pure body leverage. But I'm going to be showing you guys how I would perform this on a tiny patient who isn't particularly strong, because it's going to be easier for you guys to see exactly what I'm doing. First thing that we want to do when working on the bicep is we are going to take the patient into extension. And when we're taking them into extension, we want to start with the elbow in some flexion. That way we have some slack at the elbow. We want to start proximal to distal. So we're starting at the shoulder joint by taking the patient into extension. Once we have a comfortable amount of extension, then we're going to transition into elbow extension. And once we have that elbow extension, we're going to then transition to the forearm and take the patient into pronation. From this position right over here, we have a nice deep stretch going on at the long head of the biceps brachii. So we're going to reverse all of those actions and we're going to isolate the movements before we integrate them when doing the PNF. So first, I'm going to instruct the patient to inhale and bring your arm forward. They're going to inhale, go into shoulder flexion. As they exhale and relax, I'm going to traction to create some space and take them deep into shoulder extension. Then I'm going to instruct the patient to inhale and give me a biceps curl. They're going to inhale, go into elbow flexion. As they exhale and relax, I'm going to traction to create space, take them deep into elbow extension. And then lastly, I'm going to instruct the patient to inhale and turn your palm toward the ceiling. They're going to inhale, go into forearm supination. As they exhale and relax, I'm going to traction to create space, take them deep into pronation. And now that we have isolated the movements, we are going to integrate them all together and combine them. So now I'm going to instruct the patient to inhale, bring your arm forward, give me a biceps curl, and turn your palm toward the ceiling at the same time. They're going to inhale and simultaneously go into shoulder flexion, elbow flexion, forearm supination. And as they exhale and relax, I'm going to traction to create space and simultaneously take them into shoulder extension, elbow extension, forearm pronation. When we are targeting the long head of the biceps brachii group, because we are targeting 3 separate actions, we're going to be getting a lot of muscles involved aside from just the long head of the biceps brachii. At the glenohumeral joint, because we're targeting those shoulder flexors, aside from the long head of the biceps brachii, we're also going to be targeting the anterior deltoid and the clavicular attachment of the pectoralis major with some stretch in the coracobrachialis. Then moving distally to the elbow joint, at the elbow joint, we are going into elbow extension, which means we're going to be targeting, aside from the long head of the biceps brachii, we're also going to be getting the short head of the biceps brachii. And the short head, it's also responsible for supination. So we're targeting both of its main actions. So we're getting a lot of stretch in both the long and short head of the biceps brachii. We're also going to be getting a lot of stretch in the brachioradialis, and we're going to be getting some good stretch in the brachialis. To some extent, we will be getting a little bit of stretch in the pronator teres, and we will be getting some stretch as well in the flexor carpi radialis, the flexor carpi ulnaris, and the palmaris longus. Moving distally to the forearm, because we are taking the patient into pronation, Primarily, we are going to be getting, aside from just the biceps brachii, long and short head, we're going to be targeting the supinator muscle. It is literally called the supinator muscle because it supinates the forearm. And again, at the forearm, we're also going to be getting a little bit more of those distal attachments of the brachioradialis. But the main emphasis, this is the go-to stretch for the long head of the biceps brachii. And then during the next rest period, I'm going to show you how to perform this stretch to emphasize the short head of the biceps brachii. But for right now, our rest period is up. Time for set number 5. That was just a tiny taste of what can be found in my members only section. If you enjoyed it, become a member for only $5 a month to get access to hundreds of member only videos.